further clarification of terms that are relevant to the development or the foundations of prejudice. So the first one I'm going to go over in this video is scapegoat theory. So a scapegoat, what is a scapegoat? That's someone that you blame for your problems. Sometimes prejudice can grow out of this desire to blame someone for your problems. So who do you think people might choose as a scapegoat? Do you think they're going to choose someone from their in-group or someone from the out-group? You know, because, hey, you don't want to blame people that you like in your in-group. You're going to want to blame those other folks, the folks that you have thought of as other in your out-group. And so this concept suggests that prejudice results from the need to find someone to blame for negative circumstances, any negative circumstances. It could be things like financial problems, famine, having to go through natural disaster even. I mean, there's just all sorts of things that you want to blame, unemployment. And so scapegoats are typically individuals associated with an out-group. And typically we choose scapegoats that are easy targets in the sense that they're usually low in power. People who aren't going to push back perhaps when you try to blame them for your particular problem. So sometimes prejudice can grow out of this need that we have to find someone to blame. We need to find a scapegoat, so our prejudice can develop out of our need to find that scapegoat. And typically they are in the out-group. All right, now let's talk about another concept, and that's realistic conflict theory. This has to do with the fact that groups are often in competition. Competition for resources, competition for jobs, competition for money, competition for land. Anything you can think of, groups are often in competition. And so when you're in competition, you can have negative attitudes to someone who you see as a threat, someone who can take those resources away from you. And so realistic conflict theory, it explains prejudice in terms of the degree of hostility and prejudice between groups is equivalent, proportional to the scarcity, the lack of resources in the environment. So when you have scarcity, like a scarcity of jobs, a scarcity of money, scarcity of land, of resources, of food, when there's scarcity, there's more conflict, there's more prejudice, there's more negative feelings that grow out of that scarcity because you're having negative feelings towards a group that you're worried are going to take those resources from you. You're worried that they are a threat, that they are your competition. So that is one way to explain the development of prejudice. Now, another thing that we have that can contribute to prejudice or maintenance of prejudice certainly is something called the just world phenomenon or the just world hypothesis, sometimes also just called belief in a just world. I mean, what does that sound like? What is a just world? A just world is where good things happen to good people, bad things happen to bad people, things are fair, things are just. But of course, the real world, it's often unjust, it's often unfair. Bad things happen randomly, and they happen to people who don't deserve them. And sometimes people who deserve or who have worked for good things to happen in their life, sometimes they have horrible things happen in their life. And so sometimes prejudice grows out of sort of a denial of the fact that sometimes people are in bad situations and they didn't ask for it. A related concept is victim blaming. When we find out that somebody is in a bad circumstance, that that some unfortunate thing has happened to them or they're experiencing unfortunate circumstances, it's very easy to be like, well, how did you make this happen? As if somebody is very sick, they might say, well, did you take care of yourself? Did you smoke? Did you do drugs? Did you go to the doctor? Focusing on, well, what did you do to make this happen to you? If someone gets robbed, there's sometimes people will jump to, well, did you at least lock up all your stuff? Were you careful? Did you make sure that, did you have an alarm system? Trying to blame that person for what has happened to them instead of the person that did it to them. And so related to prejudice, the just world phenomenon is the belief that the world is a fair place where good people are rewarded and bad people are punished. So it justifies or maintains your prejudice. If you have prejudice towards a particular group, if you believe in a just world, you'd say, well, why should I, so let's use an example. Let's use a specific example. All right, I'm going to go to fat phobia again. Fat phobia or sizeism. Just because I have examples from my own life. So if you hear the research showing that people who are in larger sizes, that they go through, I don't know if you heard that, there was a loud noise outside. I hope everybody's okay. So when people are larger, they go through some additional hassles that other people don't have to deal with, like just finding clothes, just going to a store and being like, hey, do you have my size? You get to larger sizes and stores are like, no, we don't. Even if you are the average size or even smaller than the average size in the United States, a lot of times you can't find your size in stores. If you go to certain places, the seats might not fit you comfortably. We also know that doctors tend to be hostile towards patients who are on the larger size. This is not just coming from me. This research, peer-reviewed research supports this. But some people, they hear all this and they're like, so they shouldn't be fat then. They're the ones who made themselves fat. If they don't like all that stuff happening to them, they shouldn't be fat. The idea is, hey, this is a just world. I can be prejudiced towards this group because they chose to be in that group. So this can lead to prejudice. This just world belief can lead to prejudice because if you can believe that somebody's in this situation because they chose to be, it's easier for you to have hostile feelings towards them because you say, if you don't like all this stuff that's happening to you, just get out of the group. Just don't have that identity if it causes problems for you. Don't have that body size if it causes problems for you. I mean, there are many examples of this. And again, not going to be able to do it justice because this is a very quick course, just a survey, general course. If you're curious, lots more information about these things. All right, so this is going to end the very brief discussion about prejudice and discrimination and stereotypes. And the next thing I'm going to talk about for this class for social psychology is going to be aggression and our research and understanding of aggression so far.